In this video, we'll continue with looking at properties of logarithms, getting into some more advanced ideas. So the first one we'll look at actually has a name. It's called the product property. And essentially, if we're looking at this, it means that if I have a product within a logarithm, then I can write it as two logarithms, but with addition between them. And this seems a little weird at first, but it stems from a very, very familiar exponential property that we all know. So if I have x to the m times x to the n, this is equal to x to the m plus n. So if we think about logarithms and exponentials, they are inverses of each other. So if I look at an exponent, or an exponential law, I'm multiplying, and that leads me to add the exponents. So then if I'm multiplying the x, or multiplying in my base here, then that would mean, okay, I can add outside the logarithm. The two are very much intertwined, very much related. So there's one use for this, and that's we can actually, instead of writing one complex logarithmic expression, we can write it as several simpler logarithmic expressions, and that can sometimes lead to an easier or more simpler looking function or equation for ours. The next one we'll talk about is the quotient property, and it's very similar to the product property. If we're talking about division on the inside of a logarithm, well, that would lead to subtraction on the outside. And again, this one stems from an exponent law. If I have x to the m divided by x to the n, well, this would be the same as x to the m minus n. And I have to be careful here because the order does matter. The denominator always goes second. Likewise with our logarithmic expression. And again, these two rules are very much intertwined, very much related, just like the product property. The last one we'll talk about in this video is called the power property. Now, this one is a little bit different, but if we think about it, we can actually justify it using the product property. So what I'm saying here is that if I have log base b of x to the m, well, that's the same thing as m times log base b of x. Just essentially moving the exponent out into the front of the logarithm and just multiplying it. So the idea is, let's take, for example, log base b of x squared. Well, this would be the same as log base b of x times x, which we now know, according to the product property, we can write that as log base b of x times log base b of x, or plus, now times, which would be the same as 2 times log base b of x. Because if I'm adding something to itself, it's the same thing as doubling. So we're just making a jump from here to here. Now, if it was a third power instead of a 2, well, then this would become a 3, so on and so forth. So this right here is our most generic version of this. If I have something to a power, I can pull it out front and leave it as such. And we'll have a different video kind of running through some examples and some uses of this. But for now, this video, I just wanted to target the properties themselves and kind of explain where they come from.